Full Melt Show is intended for a mature audience. It contains adult themes, adult content, and sometimes adult language. Listener discretion is advised.
It's the Full Melt Show.
Governor Christie recently said, quote, "If you're getting high in Colorado today, where marijuana has been legalized, enjoy it until January 2017, because I will enforce the federal laws against marijuana." Will you?
I think one of the great problems and what the American people don't like about politics is hypocrisy. People who have one standard for others and not for themselves. There's at least one prominent example on the stage of someone who says they smoked pot in high school. And yet the people who are going to jail for this are poor people, often African Americans and often Hispanics. And yet the rich kids who use drugs aren't. I personally think that this is a crime for which the only victim is the individual. And I think that America has to take a different attitude. I'd like to see more rehabilitation and less incarceration. I'm a fan of the drug courts, which try to direct you back towards work and less time in jail. But the bottom line is the states, we say we like the 10th Amendment until we start talking about this. And I think the federal government's gone too far. I think that the war on drugs has had a racial outcome and really has been something that's really damaged our inner cities. Not only do the drugs damage them, we damage them again by incarcerating them and then preventing them from getting employment over time. So I don't think that the federal government should override the states. I believe in the 10th Amendment, and I really will say that the states are left to themselves.
I want to give the person that you called a hypocrite an opportunity to respond. Do you want to identify that person?
Well, I think if we left it open, we could see how many people smoked pot in high school.
Is there somebody you were specifically thinking of?
Well, you know, the thing is...
He was talking about me.
Yeah, I was talking
That's
about...
what I thought, but I wanted to say it.
I wanted to make it easier for him,
Okay.
and I just did.
Governor Bush, please.
So 40 years ago, I smoked marijuana, and I admit it. I'm sure that other people might have done it and may not want to say it in front of 25 million people. My mom's not happy that I just did. That's true. But here's the deal. Here's the deal. We have a serious epidemic of drugs that goes way beyond marijuana. What goes on in Colorado, as far as I'm concerned, that should be a state decision. But if you look at the problem of drugs in this society today, it's a serious problem. Rand, you know this because you're campaigning in New Hampshire like all of us, and you see the epidemic of heroin, the overdoses of heroin that's taking place. People's families are being torn apart. It is appropriate for the government to play a consistent role to be able to provide more treatment, more prevention. We're the state that has the most drug courts. Across every circuit in Florida, there are drug courts to give people a second chance. That's the best way to do this.
But let me respond. The thing is that in Florida, Governor Bush campaigned against medical marijuana. That means that a small child like Morgan Hintz that has 500 seizures a day is failing on 9 traditional medications, is not allowed to use cannabis oil, and that if they attempt to do that in Florida, they will take the child away, they will put the parents in jail, and that's what that means. If you're against allowing people to use medical marijuana, you'll actually put them in jail.
Right,
and actually, under the
you're
current
wrong about
circumstances, kids who had privilege like you do don't go to jail, but the poor kids in our inner cities go to jail. I don't think that's fair, and I think that we need to acknowledge it, and it is hypocritical to still want to put poor people in jail.
I don't want to put poor people in jail, Rand.
Well,
here's the deal.
You oppose medical marijuana?
No, I did not oppose when the legislature passed the bill to deal with that very issue. That's the way to solve this problem. Medical marijuana on the ballot was opened up. There's a huge loophole. And it was the first step towards getting to a Colorado place. And as a citizen of Florida, I voted no.
The booze right there. You have just as much accessibility to drink it in your car than you do home. So it just has to be on the responsibility of the person to, be honest and be responsible and not do stuff like that.
And Native Roots says public safety is their priority, saying they educate their customers on the laws of smoking and driving. Now, both locations will be open here in the Springs in October.
That was clearly a stoner move. That was clearly a stoner move. The Full Melt.
The Full Melt Show. A marijuana discussion about news, culture, politics, and lifestyle. FullMelt.com. Toll free. 844-420-TALK. 844-420-TALK.
That was a stoner move. It was a total stoner move. There was some kind of audio clip there. I don't know where it came from. Label those little... they're stoner moves. You got the gist of the opening of that audio, though. I really didn't get a chance to dive deep into the presidential campaign, but I always tape it. In fact, that presidential debate on CNN last night was airing simultaneous to this show. So I always record it. I record all the important stuff. I try to record just for the purposes of like radio drops. So when people talk about stuff weed related, I'll have an opportunity to grab it off the tape and play it as a drop here on the show. Every once in a while, you get a little flavor like that. Ain't no flavor today. Yeah, I do too. Got some flavor. Let me tell you this though before I do the flavor. It's a pretty flavor. What happened? Besides what you heard there, is this. This is according to MSNBC.com reporting what happened on CNN. We do need criminal justice reform. This is according to Carly. Was it Fiorina? So here's what this happened. Because let me just go back a little bit. I had to rewind a little bit. So it was Fiorina, Christine, and Bush making no distinction between marijuana and heroin. And to varying degrees, they promoted the debunked idea that marijuana is a gateway to harder drugs just because it often comes in a sequence. Fiorina then gave the strongest voice to the anti-drug position, unveiling a painful personal story that could have been clipped from a Nancy Reagan Just Say No campaign from the 80s. It's very much, I very much hope that I'm the only person on this stage who can say this, but I know there are millions of Americans out there who will say the same thing, she said. My husband, Frank, and I buried a child to drug addiction, so we must invest more in treatment of drugs. The room went quiet. The other candidate stopped trying to look friendly and instead just looked sad, and then Fiorina continued. But we are misleading young people when we tell them that marijuana is just like having a beer. It's not. And the marijuana that kids are smoking today is not the same as the marijuana that Jeb Bush smoked 40 years ago, she said. We do need criminal justice reform. We have the highest incarceration rates in the world. 2/3 of the people in our prisons are there for nonviolent offenses, mostly drug-related. It's clearly not working, she continued. But we need to tell young people the truth. Drug addiction is an epidemic, and it's taking too many of our young people. The room erupted in applause. So, she's right about most of that. I mean, but it's, you can't dictate social policy based on personal experience. You can't. When you have a personal experience, you have to stop and look at the personal experience and examine it for what it is and apply it to social issues, situations, and say, how did we end up here? So I've got a child that I buried to drug addiction. Okay, well, what kind of drug was it? And how did they get involved in that addiction? What was lacking in their life that they sought out something to make them feel better, this self-medication process that people go through when they seek out drugs, illicit drugs especially, but it doesn't matter. It could be something out of the cabinet that wasn't yours either, that wasn't prescribed to you. That happens all the time. Husbands taking wives' drugs, wives taking husbands' drugs, neighbors taking neighbors' drugs. You can't tell me it doesn't happen here. I see it all the time. And my ultimate point about this is that when you have an experience like this, you can't dictate social policy based on that single experience or based on what looks like to be a lot of other people who've had similar experiences and use that data to back your position, because you can't rule from that place. First, you've got to figure out, like I said, how you got there. And then you've got to figure out how these other people are getting there. This takes a little more study than that, doesn't it? And then you've got to apply, what is the best solution? Start looking around for people who've experimented in this place and see what's worked for them. And the answer is clear in most places. Is it, what is it? I can't remember the nation. Is it Uruguay? I think it might be Uruguay. But what they figured out here when they've conducted these social experiments is this. And this is a place, I think, that just legalized outright drugs. They just said, look, we're not going to put people in prison and put you through all these awful, grinders of social policy, mostly having no effect on the underlying condition, especially. And we're not going to do that anymore. We're not going to, because we've been spending a lot of money there, and none of that's having any effect on the amount of drugs available here or the number of people that are willing to use them. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to try just letting people have the drugs, If they're going to do the drugs, they're going to do the drugs. Ultimately, there's an answer for that question. You're going to kill yourself. It's what's going to happen. But, hopefully, in an effort to prevent that or an effort to divert that, we're going to offer you some options. We're going to offer you treatment programs. We're going to offer you an ability to get gainful employment again. See, right now in this country, like they were talking about the presidential candidates there. They're saying it's silly because you give these people felony convictions and then you won't hire them later because they got a felony conviction. You won't let them do anything socially anymore. You kind of snip them in the heels from being anything having social value from a job standpoint or a social credibility standpoint because they've got this felonious label on them. And I say that whole idea goes against what I think it's unconstitutional to do that kind of thing anyways, to label people lifelong. Why would you box them into that place and try and keep them there rather than encourage them to be in a better place? Yes, it doesn't always work, but you've got to, as a social organization, as a government organization, you've got to promote the idea that there is a better way, there's a better pathway, and guide them to it. You can't make the horse drink from the trough, but you can certainly lead them there. That's all you can do in these situations. But in the interest of the government's tax dollars and in the interest of the betterment of the citizens, stop grinding them and punishing them for something that they're really victim to. And I'm pretty sure the government is well aware of this if they just looked at it clearly. If they're not, they're just too stupid. But what these organizations, where they've tinkered with this, they figured out that instead we're going to spend the money and we're going to encourage employers to hire these people by supplementing their salary by 50%. So if you hire people out of the treatment programs or out of these places where they've gone to a clean living place where they're not doing the drugs anymore, or at least the drug use is under control and they're gainfully employable, that you can hire these people and half their salary is going to be paid for by the government. It's way cheaper than paying a prison personnel to guard somebody and to monitor and punish all these situations that happen in a prison scenario. That environment is not going to produce anything that is core to your cause. And so when presidential candidates start talking about this, when presidential candidates start, we're going into break already. So, wow, time flies. You've got to stand up and pay attention. I think Rand Paul makes some great points. I think all the candidates make some great points. The only ones that didn't make great points were mostly the ones that weren't quoted. And it's Chris Christie, which started off that round of questioning by Jake Tapper about, hey, Chris Christie says, if you're in Colorado and you got your pot, you better smoke it because I'm going to shut it down.
You're getting the full melt.
Got something to hide? Canalock offers discreet and effective storage solutions that destroy odor, so nobody knows. Canalock is a patented charcoal-activated bag that discreetly stores your marijuana. Canalock is made from the same material as military chemical warfare suits. Get yours at canalock.com. Visit canalock.com to learn more about no-smell technology.
Hey, it's Steve Green for the Sweet Leaf in Flint, because now getting safe access to medical cannabis patients in Flint, Michigan is never more welcoming. Presenting the Sweet Leaf, a brand new patient experience bringing 12 carefully selected caregivers housed in 9 separate offices to distinctly assist you with their knowledge and reputation for excellent patient care. Classes and training coming soon in the large community room. Check it out in person, 400 South Door Highway, or call 810-259-2571. The Sweet Leaf Center in Flint, 810-259-2571. Introducing Sacred Elements, a place for natural and alternative healing for the mind, body, and soul. Sacred Elements. It's one place, all solutions.
Registered, licensed, certified, ordained.
Sacred Elements.
Massage, hypnosis, Reiki.
Sacred Elements.
Raindrop, aroma and color therapy, body detox, ministry, life coaching, weight and nutrition counseling.
Sacred Elements. Next to the Sweet Leaf, 400 South Door Highway, Flint.
11 to 7 daily, closed Sunday.
Call 810-259-2570.
Young students are our future. They're eager to learn, eager to succeed, eager to make the world a better place. And they want to make it to school safely. Share the road, take care when passing, and always leave 3 feet between you and people on bikes. Bikes are legal road vehicles. We're all drivers.
Don't miss the first ever cannabis competition this year as the prize contest moves from Amsterdam to Jamaica. That's right, it's all Jamaican fun now with the Big Cup competition in Negril this November. Get your best travel accommodations now at JamaicaPot.com. Pack your beach bong and swimsuit and party down at the warm sandy beaches of Negril, Jamaica for the first ever big cannabis event this year. Do it in style or come have fun on a budget. Best travel prices now at JamaicaPot.com. That's JamaicaPot.com.
What's up with these things, Victor?
We decided to give ourselves stickers for each feature we release. We read about 10,000 suggestions a week to create features that as traders we'd want to use.
10,000 suggestions? Who reads all of those?
He does.
For all the confidence you need, TD Ameritrade, you got this.
What is my reason for living? Are you going to pass that doobie or what?
It's the Full Melt Radio Show. I think it's my favorite new drop right there. Hey, as a program note, I wanted to let you know that, well, it's really a public service announcement, I guess. It's not really a program note because I'm not doing a broadcast from there because I'm going to go have fun like everybody else at the first annual Dab-O-Ween. This has a costume contest, $200 cash prize for men and $200 cash prize for women. There is a midnight balloon drop. This thing is loaded up. Listen to all the crap going on. Pumpkin carving contest. You want to be encouraged to bring your pre-carved pumpkin and bring to the party to be used for decoration and judging. Prize consists of $100 cash and will be voted on by the people attending at the party. Event T-shirts for free for the first 300 through the door. Place only holds like 500 people, so a couple hundred you'll have to fend for what's left of the scraps for the T-shirts. There's only 300. They said it's a thriller midnight balloon drop. There's a name for it, I guess. Free food catered, high-quality food there. No alcohol will be served or allowed in. A wandering card trickster and magician will be around to entertain people. How cool is that? Come get a free fortune-telling at the Dab-O-Ween party from tarot extraordinaire Amy Guzlin. Free photo booth there. Props provided by paparazzibox.com. A dance floor with lights, sound, and fog, and all that kind of cool stuff. So maybe you can go out there and do the thriller dance with people and have the crazy fog on the floor. That's cool as hell. They really want you to do what you can to do a good costume if you can. I think that a lot of fun will be had around the costume action. There's going to be no politics going on. This is a bury the hatchet party. So no speakers, no vending. It's just a party. It's open to the public. You've got to have your med card to get in. There'll be gifts at the door, dancing all night, great music, free food, good times to be had by all. The party's going to be in Mount Morris. Make sure you have your ID and your card, like I said. No copies. You may just make sure you have your patient ID or caregiver card with proper paperwork and ID. All is free, so, again, it doesn't cost you a thing. And I really wanted to take a minute to give a good thank you to the sponsors, the people who put this on, because without this, the party wouldn't have happened. And, man, I'm telling you, the digs look to be great. And I'll bet you they got stuff in store and surprise that I'm not talking about here that you got to go to the party and find out. Depot Town of Ypsilanti, of course, Sweet Leaf in Flint, Arborside of Ann Arbor, Third Coast of Ypsilanti, the Dank Team of Flint at the Sweet Leaf, Two Guys at the Grow Shop of Burton. Also, Florida Bob's Place in Flint. It's also the Sweet Leaf. Puff and Stuff of Lansing, Happy Buddha of Lansing, the Spot of Kalamazoo, Compassion Club U.S. of Grand Rapids. These are the primary sponsors that are doing all the, paying for everything, bringing all the coolness to the party, so to speak. So I just wanted to tell you about the Dab-O-Ween event. I promised people I would promote it, and that's what I'm doing. Listen for the cool-ass commercials coming. I think they're scheduled to start tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken, right here on this very program. So we were talking about the presidential candidates. It seems like that is the big news, that the GOPers have opened the door to legal marijuana. At least they're talking about it. I knew that this was going to happen. That's one of the reasons I taped that event, because it was 3 hours off my DVR. Now, I can't record the new fall series because that thing's sitting on there now. The new fall season's starting soon. If you're a big TV nut like me, I'm a kid of the 70s and 80s. That's all we had was the TV. We didn't have any gaming and no internet. And, yeah. How does the Gilligan's Island theme go? Yeah, that was us. Anyways, so it's cool that the GOP is talking about this. Like I said, I knew they were going to that this particular presidential debate would likely have to crack that open because it's too big of a looming question. It would be, you couldn't call yourself a journalist asking questions of this panel and not ask a question in that category. Before, in previous presidential elections and debates, you could completely avoid this because the subject was still too small. It was still too fractionary. It didn't have broad enough appeal. Not enough people cared countrywide. It didn't matter to the debate or the idea of the president getting elected. Now you can tell it clearly matters. It's undeniable. Why would they spend any time taking a position on this, talking about this, when they could have just done what they did before and say, you know what, I think we need more, research. We need to see what else is going on in these experimental states and see what some of the data looks like before they could just humdrum around and make circles in the sand with their feet like they've always done. They don't have that opportunity anymore. History's caught up with them, hasn't it? I said caught. I mean, history did catch up with them. It's right on their heels. They stood on that treadmill long enough that the thing that they were running from caught up with them, and there's no avoiding it. I mean, it's a tsunami of marijuana activity going on across the country. This has been sizzling and storming, and it's been getting more pressure from these, independent groups that are running ballot petitions. Some of them, in many states, multiple ones competing. How could you not consider this, title? And so that's what I'm saying. This had to happen during this debate. So I'm not surprised at all that these people had a chance to speak about it. Of course, there are much bigger fish to fry in the overall scheme of things, but this had to be discussed. People had to talk about this. For the first time, Jeb Bush, who's been around for the whole, running of the campaigns of, both his father and his brother and then himself as governor, and now his own presidential campaign. And there's a lot of money behind Jeb. Jeb's got a crap ton of money. I mean, the Kochs are going to go to the Bushes first, aren't they? Isn't that part of that dynasty? The Koch brothers with all the billions and billions? Sprinkle a little dollars here, it's just, it's like shaking a salt shaker for those guys. Here, have some salt. We've got plenty of salt. Here you go. You need some more? There's a little blend over there. Here's some more salt. It's just, replace the salt with cash. But, so that's right. He's got all this money, but he's been really low on the scale. I'm surprised that, that he wasn't down there on the lower scale with the other 5 candidates that had to appear in the previous edition of the debate because they didn't have room on the stage for all of them. So their own little mini debate. It had less than a quarter of the viewership. For CNN, that debate was 23 million viewers, 25 million viewers, somewhere in that neighborhood, give or take a few million. At that level, it doesn't matter. Normally, the part that doesn't matter would be their entire viewership and be a great night. They'd have spent a lot of money promoting that particular night. They didn't spend a lot of money promoting this. This just got assembled, in the past month or two, this particular set of debates. They were talking about this a couple months ago. They had it organized about then. So the point of all of this is this. Things change when you start talking presidential politics and marijuana. And this kind of puts the spotlight on the point of view because there is this tidal wave coming. The candidates know that they've got to talk about this because it means too much to so many people. The governors in these places have to be knocking on these candidates' doors and at least giving them their state's position about this so that they can incorporate it into their own ideals. At least they can be aware of what's going on in their state if you're a place like Colorado or Washington or Oregon. D.C., I'm sure they know what's going on in D.C. there. I mean, Toledo just, a couple days ago there. Was it yesterday? Wasn't it? No, the day before? I think it was the day before. It was Wednesday. Wednesday? Why was it 2 days ago? I don't know. It doesn't matter. They had their election there. And, they voted in this sensible marijuana resolution, which takes all prison time and fines away from marijuana crimes under 200 grams. So go ahead and prosecute us because there's no money in it for you, Mr. Court. It's got to still go through legal challenges and stuff, but it's tested the legal challenges in other places, similar legislation, and those cities exist all over here in Michigan. I would suggest if you have like a home rule city kind of thing where you can do this kind of petition drive or change the language of your constitution, so to speak, your city charter, whatever the foundation speech of your government is there in your local city or community. If you've got the ability to petition them and force them to either act, or if they don't act, if they choose not to act, put it on the ballot so that people can make the decision on their own. I think it's ridiculous that you should even have to have that option because there should be no situation in my head where somebody who is your representative isn't acting in the majority's favor. That's what is a democracy. It's not always majority rule, especially when you get into, the way they've divided up government on the federal level or, some of the houses in the state level. It's not always majority rule. When they start voting on things, that's majority rule. But when you start picking leaders, like the president, it's not majority rule. Obviously, you learned that rule, that thing on 2001, the 2001 debacle. I mean, was it 2001? Where was that? Where was the hanging Chad at? I can't remember what year that was. Doesn't matter. You know the one I'm talking about. How could you forget the hanging Chad? And that the whole thing is a debacle. In the larger scheme of things, the government's really screwed. Here you've got the Republican Party wanting to choke the government at one end, make it smaller, and anytime you make it smaller, guess what? You reduce its income. Anybody that's if you got bills, if you got a bunch of bills and you're backed up, and you're just borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. You don't know how you're going to get to tomorrow. You're living from paycheck to paycheck. You just got enough to get by, and then you got to invent some more to make it. If you're one of those people, there's millions of people across this country that are just in that situation, just as I just described to you. Things matter a lot more on a very sensitive scale, don't they? I mean, just a little tiny thing can erupt and cause your whole house of cards to crumble. And then what? You've got a family to protect. You might be homeless. There are a lot of people that are on that cusp that live like that. It's those people that these candidates have to think about. Because they make up such a large part of the population that are going to go out there and vote. Yes, the government is corrupt, but at least you've got some forward movement in this place. It's about time, and thank God that the people had the wherewithal to pull up their bootstraps in many places across the country. Because if there was ever a grassroots movement in this country, the cannabis movement has been it, and I don't use the term loosely. I'm not being facetious or smart when I use that term. I'm not trying to have pun here. I'm trying to make the point that this isn't something that happened because there was big funding behind it. There wasn't. There was no industry push to make this happen. The industry ran the other direction until they started seeing the activists have some success and carve out some money. When that started happening, industry paid attention. Their eyebrows perked up with their ears. Their wallets started having hunger pains. This matters. It matters to the country, and when you look at the data in these places that have conducted these quote-unquote experiments, because I could have told you it's a foregone conclusion what was going to happen in these places. The sky didn't fall, did it? There are a lot of scaremongers that still want to predict that those skies are going to fall, that there's still another shoe to drop. Look out. You don't know where it's coming from? It's a bird, it's a plane, it's smacking you in the head from behind. Beware. There's another shoe. And there's not. There's some more data that will trickle in. Yes, we'll do some additional learning about this, but that's what this is about, isn't it? When you conduct an experiment, don't you intend to learn something by altering the conditions from which they were before? That's like the definition of an experiment. The definition of crazy is the other way around, doing the same thing again and again and hoping to get a different result, right? That is what's been coined as crazy. It's crazy to think that something's going to change when you keep doing everything the same. And so now that we're doing stuff differently, expect to learn from those things. Yes, there are going to be some ups and downs, but I can tell you the biggest part of this, the big news from this is all going to be up. And again, I'm not being facetious. I keep making puns and I'm not trying to. The takeaway from this whole love affair that the government is going to now have to have, it's a forced marriage, isn't it? The pot and the government? I don't know why, because the bride, although she may be ugly, certainly does smell sweet and is intoxicating and has pockets laden with cash. What's not to like about that date? I want to know. Pray thee tell. So when more debates happen, expect that there are going to be more comments like this that are going to be cookie cutter cut out as little sound bites for you to hear during the evening news, and you certainly will hear all of that stuff here on this very program. That's why we call it the Full Melt, because you're going to get all of it. Now, when we come back from the break, because I think we're pretty close to the break, the music is going to kick here in a second. I've got to play this little bit of audio because there was another bit on this presidential and I hate to spend the whole day on it, but I'm not going to. I'm going to get to some other news. But I want to it really caught my attention, first off, that I've been talking to you about this whole autism thing and revealing what I believe now is clearly an underlying condition, a major component of why people are exponentially coming down with this disease. And amazingly enough, by luck or otherwise, this topic was also picked up during the 3-hour Republican primary presidential debate on CNN last night. And I'm going to play you a bit from Mr. Donald Trump, the last guy on the face of the planet that I would think for 1 minute I would have some agreeance with. He has an opinion on this subject. We'll reveal it to you coming up next.
You're getting the Full Melt.
Get ready, let's go. Hey, na, 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 na. Oh, hey, now, let's go. Yeah, I've got style. I'll make it wild. I'll change it up and switch it up so versatile. I'll be myself and I'm gonna let everybody know.
We have the latest styles to mix it and mash it. So make it your own and bend the trend. JCPenney. When it fits, you feel it. During the JCPenney Back to School Hot Sale, get an extra $10 off when you spend $25 or more with coupon. Nike, Converse, Levi's, and other exclusions apply.
What's up with these things, Victor?
We decided to give ourselves stickers for each feature we release. We read about 10,000 suggestions a week to create features that, as traders, we'd want to use.
10,000 suggestions? Who reads all of those?
He does.
For all the confidence you need, TD Ameritrade, you got this.
Don't miss the first ever cannabis competition this year as the prize contest moves from Amsterdam to Jamaica. That's right, it's all Jamaican fun now with the Big Cup competition in Negril this November. Get your best travel accommodations now at JamaicaPot.com. Pack your beach bong and swimsuit and party down at the warm sandy beaches of Negril, Jamaica for the first ever big cannabis event this year. Do it in style or come have fun on a budget. Best travel prices now at JamaicaPot.com. That's JamaicaPot.com.
If you're like us, your pets aren't just animals. They're members of your family. Pet Pain CBD hemp oil drops are great for aging as well as active dogs and cats. Some people are apprehensive about hemp treatments for pets. They ask us, what are you smoking? Absolutely nothing, and neither will your pet. Like other hemp-based products for humans, the allure is all of the benefits of cannabis without any of the high. The CBD oil has shown to rejuvenate the bones, joints, brain, stomach, eyes, and heart. And the drops contain absolutely no corn, wheat, soy, artificial colors and flavors, or preservatives. Pick some up today. Visit petpain.com. or ask for Pet Pain at your local pet store. PetPain.com. CBD relief for your pet.
We asked people to tell us something that happened in their past and something that might happen in their future. The good things were put on yellow magnets and the bad ones on blue. The results show the past was a pretty even mix of good and bad, yet the future was almost all good things. Now that you've seen the results of this experiment, what does it mean to you?
We all want to think about positive stuff.
Realistically, there will be downtimes.
It's great to think optimistically, but let's plan for whatever the future might bring.
Prudential, bring your challenges.
It's the Full Melt Radio Show. So I was talking about this presidential thing, and you know, one of the other things that they were talking about during the debate last night was this whole business with Carly Fiorina responding to Donald Trump about his attack on her face. I mean, that's what he did. Didn't he just attack her face? He was like, look, who's going to vote for a face like that? Did you see her face on the Facebook? Who's gonna vote for somebody that looks like that? Who's going to vote for that? I mean, it's funny because the bombs that he drops like this are open-ended. They're not quite sealed with a kiss, are they? They're not. They're just open-ended. It's like, you can fill in the blank. Oh, that woman reporter, she made me so mad. She must be, she was bleeding from her eyes. She was bleeding from her whatever. Fill in the blank. That's kind of what he did with Carly. He didn't outright say she's ugly, right? He didn't say she's ugly or that she was, odd to look at or that she was hideous. He didn't say anything like that. He led you to fill in that blank with your own mind because it's the next natural thing to say in that sentence. Your mama's so ugly, she ... I mean, the rest isn't going to be a pretty story, right? So your mind fills in the blank, and that's what he did with Carly. He's like, I think it was a radio interview. I think it was an interview. And he's like, are you kidding me with the Carly Fiorina thing? He does it in the whole New York, New Jersey thing. What, are you kidding me? Did you see that girl? Who's going to vote for somebody that looks like that? He didn't say looks like. Who's going to vote for that? Did you see her? Who's going to vote for that? I mean, that's what he said. I think that's a better quote. I'm coalescing it from memory, so it may not be verbatim, but it's pretty damn close. Pretty good with remembering those kind of terms. He didn't say looks. He didn't even say that word. He said, well, he did. He said, did you see how she looks online? Did you see how she looks? Did you see that? Who's going to vote for that? It's so sexist. But, to Donald Trump, Carly Fiorina, she's like puppy chow. It's like Fiorina puppy chow. That's what it is. So, she's just nothing. Consumable. He could just munch her down in a hungry dog bite, right? I'm going to play this bit of audio to you, and this relates to the autism question, right? So this was also in the debate like that. The people that you're going to hear are first Ben Carson, and then also responding to Ben, Donald Trump. Here we go.
There have been numerous studies, and they have not demonstrated that there's any correlation between vaccinations and autism. This was something that was spread widely 15 or 20 years ago, and it has not been adequately revealed to the public what's actually going on. Vaccines are very important, certain ones, the ones that would prevent death or crippling. There are others, a multitude of vaccines which probably don't fit in that category, and there should be some discretion in those cases. But, a lot of this is pushed by big government, and I think that's one of the things that people so vehemently want to get rid of big government. We have 4.1 million federal employees, 650 federal agencies and departments. That's why they have to take so much of our taxes.
Should he stop saying it? Should he stop saying that vaccines cause autism?
Well, I've just explained it to him. He can read about it if he wants to. I think he's an intelligent man and will make the correct decision after getting the real facts.
Mr. Trump, as president,
Well,
you
I'd
would.
like to
I'm
respond.
going right to you.
I'd like to
Mr. Trump,
respond.
as president, you would be in charge of the Centers for Disease Control and the National Institutes of Health, both of which say you are wrong. How would you handle this as president?
Autism has become an epidemic. 25 years ago, 35 years ago, you look at the statistics, not even close. It has gotten totally out of control. I am totally in favor of vaccines, but I want smaller doses over a longer period of time. Because you take a baby in, and I've seen it, and I had my children taken care of over a long period of time, over a 2 or 3 year period of time, same exact amount. But you take this little beautiful baby and you pump, I mean, it looks just like it's meant for a horse, not for a child. And we've had so many instances, people that work for me just the other day, 2 years old, 2.5 years old, a beautiful child, went to have the vaccine and came back and a week later got a tremendous fever, got very, very sick, now is autistic. I only say I'm in favor of vaccines. Do them over a longer period of time, same amount.
Thank you.
Just in little sections.
Dr. Carson.
And I think you're going to see a big impact on autism.
Dr. Carson, you just heard his medical take.
He's an okay doctor. Okay. But, the fact of the matter is, we have extremely well-documented proof that there's no autism associated with vaccinations. But it is true.
Okay, wait a minute here. I had to stop it because I couldn't take it anymore. It just leaves such a bad taste in my mouth. You know what? I would have, if it was only a couple of short months ago. That's how quickly I've been turned on this. If it was just a couple of months ago, I'd have told you that Dr. Ben Carson is exactly on target with what he said. But the fact of the matter is, I don't think he understands the underlying science here. I think he's just going based on what he saw from several years ago. And if you go back and you review the radio show that we did just a week ago today, it was a week ago tonight. We did a 2-hour live show with MIT researcher Stephanie Seneff. That doctor at that university, that highly acclaimed university, has peer-reviewed published studies that connect glyphosate poisoning in GMO foods, mostly from soy and corn. There's a lot of other stuff that's grown, but the vast majority that Monsanto makes in this place is in soy and corn, and that's where they focus and concentrate. And those are the underlying foodstuffs of the world, aren't they? So if you go back and look at this and connect that to the MMR vaccine and the glyphosate question, the glutamine question, and find out how these dots connect together, because I have explained them in an article. If you want to go to my Facebook page, go check me out. Steve Green, click on the Facebook page, toggle down to the place where I show you the science behind this radio story. Because I couldn't just leave it at the story. But Dr. Ben Carson, I have to disagree with you, and I have to agree. I can't believe I'm saying this. I have to agree with Donald Trump. Wow, that leaves a bad taste in my mouth. But I have to say it, because I think everything that Trump said there is right on target with reality. And I don't know if, Trump is got to be a brilliant guy. He seems to know what to do to push people's buttons, I can tell you that. He seems like one of these off-the-cuff people. I think that's why the Republicans are so in love with him. They're fascinated from the poll standpoint. Whether he'll ever survive this arena, it seems like he might. Could he be the candidate of the Republicans? And then will America vote him in, depending on who's the other choice, who the Democrats choose? I don't know. It's fascinating, isn't it? But, well, maybe it's not to you. Maybe you don't give a boo about politics. Maybe you're all like, click, I'm done talking, listen to that crap. It's funny, though, that how could you not pay attention to this, kangaroo court? It's not a kangaroo court. I guess it is kind of a kangaroo court because, the jester is Jake Tapper in this. Oh, he's just entertaining the guys at he's asking questions. Jake asks good questions. My point is this. These guys, when they're talking about this subject, first of all, I can't believe that it came up. What are the chances that this came up? Oh, you know what it was? This was Jake Tapper. He asked this question because Donald Trump had taken this position in the past. This isn't the Trump man's first swing in the pool. He's run for president before, and he's taken positions before, and he's trumpeted things before. Some of it's come back to haunt him, just made him more famous in this instance, didn't it? Like the Teflon Don he seems to be. But in this place, he's made this claim. So the question originally posed to Dr. Carson was, what do you think about Trump's position on this? I think he's trying to expose Trump for being a clown, but I think it backfired. And look, it's not going to go down in history that way. In reality, I think it backfired, but that's not how it'll get recorded and trumpeted. Because if you look at the people who did the Monday morning quarterbacking, they did not talk about this as having any credibility. They all sided with Carson on this, like I tell you, I would have done just 2 short months ago. But now that I know about the glyphosate and the GMO seeds, now that I know about the details and the science behind this, I'm not talking out of my ass here. This is hardcore, peer-reviewed, published science from a university by researcher Seneff. Other people, when they've looked at this information, including Vice News and other credible news outlets, agree with me that this is not the picture of reality, despite your cry.
That we are probably giving way too many in too short a period of time. And a lot of pediatricians now recognize that, and I think are cutting down on the number and the proximity in which those are done.
And
I
that's
think
all
that's
I'm saying, Jake. That's
Dr.
all
Paul?
I'm saying.
Dr. Paul, I'd like to bring you in.
See, that's what he's saying. That's all I'm saying. To cut down the frequency, I think I agree. If you listen to Dr. Bogner and what he had to say about this, Dr. Christian Bogner, who has his own, low-functioning autistic child, high on the spectrum. I would say high on the spectrum. He'd say it's low on the spectrum. He's low-functioning. He's severely autistic, let's put it that way. Dr. Bogner had the science behind cannabis and its efficacy with these children, how it calms the brain, how it goes in and attaches to the certain receptors that make these kids autistic in the first place by reversing the glutamate question in the brain. And then by CBD going and attaching to another receptor and calming the effects of the inflammation caused by this condition. It's a food condition underlying, the science says, and Dr. Bogner has pointed to this, and Stephanie Seneff agrees that this is a reversible condition that is really an inflammation of the brain.
You're getting the full melt.
Young students are our future. They're eager to learn, eager to succeed, eager to make the world a better place. And they want to make it to school safely. Share the road, take care when passing, and always leave 3 feet between you and people on bikes. Bikes are legal road vehicles. We're all drivers.
Imagine a world where patients can use marijuana like any other medicine. The Marijuana Patients Organization challenges the status quo by helping our neighbors to enjoy a better quality of life. Visit the MPO at marijuanapatients.org and enjoy informative articles, engaging debates, and information about treatments, doctors, and dispensaries in your area. Over 50,000 people have registered at marijuanapatients.org since 2010. Join us at the Marijuana Patients Organization today, marijuanapatients.org.
Hey, it's Steve Green for the Sweet Leaf in Flint, because now getting safe access to medical cannabis patients in Flint, Michigan is never more welcoming. Presenting the Sweet Leaf, a brand new patient experience bringing 12 carefully selected caregivers housed in 9 separate offices to distinctly assist you with their knowledge and reputation for excellent patient care. Classes and training coming soon in the large community room. Check it out in person, 400 South Door Highway, or call 810-259-2571. The Sweet Leaf Center in Flint, 810-259-2571.
If you're like us, your pets aren't just animals. They're members of your family. Pet Pain CBD hemp oil drops are great for aging as well as active dogs and cats. Some people are apprehensive about hemp treatments for pets. They ask us, what are you smoking? Absolutely nothing, and neither will your pet. Like other hemp-based products for humans, the allure is all of the benefits of cannabis without any of the high. The CBD oil has shown to rejuvenate the bones, joints, brain, stomach, eyes, and heart. And the drops contain absolutely no corn, wheat, soy, artificial colors and flavors, or preservatives. Pick some up today. Visit petpain.com or ask for Pet Pain at your local pet store. Petpain.com. CBD relief for your pet.
Got something to hide? Canalock offers discreet and effective storage solutions that destroy odor, so nobody knows. Canalock is a patented charcoal-activated bag that discreetly stores your marijuana. Canalock is made from the same material as military chemical warfare suits. Get yours at canalock.com. Visit canalock.com to learn more about no-smell technology.
What's up with these things, Victor?
We decided to give ourselves stickers for each feature we release. We read about 10,000 suggestions a week to create features that, as traders, we'd want to use.
10,000 suggestions? Who reads all of those?
He does.
For all the confidence you need, TD Ameritrade. You got this.
It's the Full Melt Radio Show. And normally you can hear us here Monday through Friday from 7 until 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at thefullmelt.com. Right there at the top of the page, really easy to subscribe to us on the iTunes link. Just click and subscribe. I said lick. I'm trying to say link and click at the same time. It came out lick. A couple of things I wanted to point out before we got off the air. I think there was a really important thing to say about Ohio Supreme Court. They ruled Wednesday that part of the ballot wording describing a proposal to legalize marijuana in the state is misleading in order to state board to rewrite it. Supporters of the measure, known in the fall election as Issue 3, challenged the phrasing of the ballot language title and arguing certain descriptions were inaccurate and intentionally misleading to voters. Attorneys for the state's election chief, a vocal opponent of the proposal, said that the nearly 500-word ballot language was fair. In a split decision, the high court sided with the pot supporters in singling out 4 paragraphs of the ballot language it said inaccurately states pertinent information and omits essential information. The court ordered the state's ballot board to reconvene and to replace those paragraphs about where and how retail stores can open, the amount of marijuana a person can grow and transport, and the potential for additional growing facilities. The cumulative effect of these defects in the ballot language is fatal because the ballot language fails to properly identify the substance of the amendment, a failure that misleads the voters, the court said. The court allowed the ballot issue's title grants a monopoly for the commercial production and sale of marijuana for recreational and medicinal purposes to stand in a blow to the backers who would take an issue with the use of the word monopoly. Passage of the Issue 3 measure would make Ohio a rare state to go from outlawing marijuana to allowing it for all uses in one vote. There's more to the story, but I've got other stories to tell you about. We don't have that much time left in the program. In the interest of getting to those other stories, I'll move along. There was something that I wanted to point out about what's going on the Democratic side. A lot of people paying attention to the Republicans right now because they all have their little Republican thing going on first before the Democrats do. And it's the natural course of things, but I wanted to point out a quiet little peep from the Democrats about the pot crowd. Democratic presidential hopeful vows marijuana change. This according to BellinghamHerald.com. A Dateline Denver, Democratic presidential hopeful Martin O'Malley met with Colorado's marijuana regulators Thursday and vowed immediate change on marijuana policy if he takes office, even as he laid out contradictory plans about how he'd do that. The former Maryland governor repeated his pledge to reclassify marijuana under the federal drug laws if elected. He sat down with state pot regulators along with marijuana activists and a few representatives from the industry. Reclassification could open the door to doctors being able to prescribe marijuana, which currently has no accepted medical use under federal law. Such a change would place the drug under control of the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, not the states. O'Malley said he would take a different approach than President Barack Obama, who has executive authority to reclassify marijuana, but has repeatedly said he'd leave that question up to Congress. O'Malley said he'd immediately make marijuana a Schedule II drug, similar to cocaine, which is in the most tightly controlled category of drugs that can be legally prescribed. He stopped short of calling for nationwide legalization of marijuana in Maryland. O'Malley signed a decriminalization bill, but also opposed legalizing its recreational use. I think we still have to watch Colorado and Washington State. I'm not there yet, O'Malley said, pressed about his contradictory positions that states should be allowed to experiment with drug policy even as he'd order marijuana placed under FDA control. O'Malley grinned but didn't elaborate. See, there's what the devil in the details is, isn't it? How do you reconcile these two issues? I'm not with O'Malley on this. if he can't see the writing on the wall and smell the smoke in the air, I don't know where his head's at. Progress zigzags. Progress zigs and zags, doesn't it? He said. See, I saw zigzags, and that's all I saw. O'Malley spent most of the hour-long meeting asking state and local officials how marijuana legalization has turned out. When the state's top pot regulator talked about how Colorado tried to keep weed in the state and away from kids, O'Malley broke in asking, how do you keep it out of other states? Can we guarantee it? No, but we work closely with law enforcement, said Revenue Director Barbara Broll. So, there's more on that story, too. But we've only got, less than 5 minutes left in the show. So there's one other story that I wanted to get to, which I thought had merit of discussion, or at least your awareness. This is about, again, skewing the word. This is about taking a prohibitionist point of view and using statistics. In 2012, this is according to Forbes.com. Reported by Jack Sullum, a contributor to Forbes. Supposedly neutral federal report stacks the deck against marijuana legalization. In 2012, Coloradoans approved Amendment 64, which legalized marijuana for recreational use by a vote of 55% to 45%. Last February, a Quinnipiac University poll found that 58% of Colorado voters supported that decision, while 38% opposed it, and the rest weren't sure. For prohibitionists determined to portray marijuana legalization in Colorado as a disaster, those poll results are inconvenient since they indicate that public support for Amendment 64 was higher after more than a year of legal recreational sales and more than 2 years of legal possession and home cultivation than it was in 2012. Honest drug warriors would acknowledge the Quinnipiac numbers and perhaps try to balance them with the other poll results. But does that happen? Dishonest drug warriors would do what the Rocky Mountain high-intensity drug trafficking area does in its new report on marijuana legalization, and that's changed the numbers. See, when the numbers don't fit, we change them. Oh, I caught somebody doing that. Whistleblower doing that on the whole question about that thing I was telling you about before with the autism thing. The guy from the CDC admits to a congressman under whistleblower protection that he falsified the documents in the 2004 study they published in the pediatrics paper on on autism and its connection to the MMA vaccine specifically. That there was significant connection. There was significant data there. And they omitted it from the report and intentionally misled the people about the science in this. And here they're doing it again. This organization, a federal task force, is dedicated to suppressing marijuana and other illegal drugs, claims only 50% of Colorado voters supported legalization in that Quinnipiac survey, 8 points lower than the actual results. It also understates the 2012 vote for Amendment 64 by a point, but the comparison still supports the story that the task force wants to tell, that the consequences of legalization in Colorado have been so bad that public support for the policy has actually fallen. You see what they do? You see what I'm driving at? Even assuming that this representation or misrepresentation of the Quinnipiac survey was a mistake, the direction of the error was not random. You can be sure that if the report had overstated support for legalization by 8 points, someone would have caught it before the text was finished. Which underlines the point that should be obvious by now. Despite its pose as a dispassionate collector of facts, this organization, this federal organization, which issued similar reports in 2012 and 2014, is committed to the position that legalization was a huge mistake. And every piece of information it presents is aimed at supporting that predetermined conclusion. So even when the task force does not simply make stuff up, it filters and slants the evidence to play up the purported cost of legalization while ignoring the benefits. Here are some examples. Drugged driving. The report says there's a 32% increase in marijuana traffic-related deaths after legal recreational sales began in 2014, quote unquote. Here's an interesting fact about marijuana-related traffic deaths. They don't necessarily have anything to do with marijuana. The report uses this phrase to describe fatalities from accidents involving vehicle operators who tested positive for marijuana, which could indicate the presence of inactive metabolites of THC levels so low they had no impact on driving performance whatsoever. A positive result doesn't mean a driver was impaired at the time of the crash, let alone that the marijuana contributed to the accident. You got to consider the source when you read these stories. That's what we're here to do. We'll be back tomorrow for another full hour of The Full Melt Show right here.
The Full Melt Show is a production of TFM Media.